Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, RosterWatch Nation, welcome back to the epic RosterWatch podcast, brought to you by RosterWatch.com. My name is Alex Dunlap, here with Cody Carpentier and The Trashman, as we are now into week 2 of the Waiver Wire. So it's the first Waiver Wire show of the season. We'll have one for you every single week to go along with the Waiver Wire cheat sheet. This is our last minute sort of check-in before we put the cheat sheet up on the site for our users. As usual, it has recommended free agent budget bids on it. It has the tiers of players that we're considering within those various, sub 10%, 10 to 20%, over 20%, etc. Guys, I'm not sure this week we're going to it's not, there's some week ones in the past where you got to break the bank, right? It doesn't feel like this is a break the bank week 1, at least not to me. I'd be interested to hear what you guys think. Cody?
I don't think so. When you look at it in totality, we had a couple of very good rushing outputs this week from J.K. Dobbins and Jordan Mason of names. The Dobbins thing, I don't really want to get too hot and chase. Like, I don't think that's going to be some type of season-long league winner from a fab perspective. I do think that I really wish, to be honest with you, if it's going to be point blank, I really wish we could have got into that Chargers training camp, because this is we talked about this on multiple podcasts, like how we wanted to see if these
Hardballs, man, they don't allow fantasy guys in, either one of them.
We wanted to see how fresh these legs were, and we just weren't able to see it. And now you're seeing him, blow out these big 60, 70-yard runs. And then, of course, you had the Jordan Mason stuff last night with McCaffrey, and it's going to be hard. Like, we have Jordan Mason as the top running back this week in Fab. I think everybody does. But
I'm not sure that's right, though. That's why I wanted to talk it out before we get on we put up the cheat sheet.
Well, I don't think it's wrong, but I think the problem is that you can't get too hot and heavy on it, because it is McCaffrey, and he does have this calf and Achilles injury, but we just don't know what it entails. Like, they're talking about him potentially missing week 2, but I do think Mason ends up with a fair output for the remainder of the season. I don't know, like, we've talked about this calf injury, of course, this summer as well, but I'm not sure if we get the McCaffrey role that we're used to until week 10, 11, 12. Like, when you think about it in totality, even if he gets healthy in week 3, 4, are they really going to press him for 25 plus touches on a weekly basis?
Well, look, man, I mean, to me, it's like this. We're already getting reporting today. Shanahan said today at his press availability that if this were a playoff game, that Jordan, or that somebody's asking about Jordan Whittington. We need to make sure that we need to do some QC, make sure we even have him on here. I think we have Tyler Johnson, and I think for deep leagues, dude, I think that's actually a smart deal. I would definitely prioritize DeMarcus Robinson, Tyler Johnson over Witt, but he should probably be on the sheet for sure. That's a good call out, Kip C. He said that Christian McCaffrey would have played if it was a playoff game.
I don't know if they would have needed him.
And they said, and now he said that as far as next week, he's not week to week, he's day to day. He's day to day through this week, so he might play this weekend. And I just think even if look, Trashman, I know what you're saying. They look fine without McCaffrey. And like, that's the whole running backs don't matter discussion. Like, we could have that discussion some other time during the offseason. Like, what we're talking about right now is how these players are going to help our fantasy teams. And
right, but do you think they're going to hurry McCaffrey back after a performance like that?
Bingo.
Bingo. What? I mean, what about J.K. Dobbins? You don't think they're gonna? Do you think they're gonna play him more after a performance like that?
I love Dobbins too. I've loved Dobbins. I feel like I've been higher on Dobbins than most.
That's a 60-40 snap share already between those two guys. I mean, or was it 60-40?
Well, all right, so between what two? It was 1-for-1. It was 11-10.
But Dobbins was out there for 58% of snaps. Edwards was out there for 42% of snaps. Dobbins had 3 targets. Edwards only had 1 target. And whenever Dobbins did get the football, 13 total touches for 139 total yards and 1 touchdown.
I mean, it's a toss-up for me. I could go with either one of those guys.
One of these players without us having a doom and gloom scenario for Christian McCaffrey is going to now be in a position to be a starting running back for his team, to be the number one running back for his team. Jordan Mason will not, unless McCaffrey is totally down and out. And when he's totally down and out, we've seen what can happen. If I knew I was going to get Jordan Mason in last night's situation for the rest of the season, I'd say go and blow your $100. If you have $100 budget, go blow the whole thing. But we're not in that spot. McCaffrey could be back as soon as this week, and then we're in the situation where it's like, all right, can I really play Jordan Mason in my flex whenever Christian McCaffrey is healthy, even if I think that they're going to ease McCaffrey back in? Whereas I feel a lot better about.
I'm putting Dobbins at the top of that. That's not a hill I'm trying to die on.
I'm glad you flip-flopped because I know you were on Gus before the season, Alex. I'm glad you flip-flopped to JK after seeing this performance. But I will say
I wasn't on either. I just said in a vacuum, I think I'd rather have Gus.
I will say, like, as much as I like the Dobbins performance, I'm not gonna chase this thing into the ground where I'm gonna go back to the McCaffrey thing with the calf. He had the calf in week 17. He had a calf before that earlier last year. It bounced back up this August. Jordan Mason said they also screw the San Francisco media too for cornering Jordan Mason last night. That was some BS. But secondly, he said in that presser last night, I was the RB1 all of August. Like, there's no better situation for a guy than Jordan Mason right now in that San Francisco backfield. And I'm going to circle back to the Joe Burrow thing. You brought up a lot of calf injuries that didn't really matriculate into the season. This one clearly is. McCaffrey didn't do anything in August. Didn't play in week 1. Questionable for week 2. He's not going to be 100% for at least, I would say, between 4 and 6 weeks based on what we're hearing. They added the Achilles to the situation. Like, the injury is getting worse, not better. Mason's going to have a split in this backfield regardless of what we want for the next 4, 5, 6 weeks. And if the calf doesn't, but you remember the Joe Burrow thing, like I brought up in the mock draft show we did with Lisa Ann. The Joe Burrow thing came back in week 4 and bit him in the butt, and he had to miss a couple more games. Like, now we're talking about McCaffrey, who has his whole game is dependent on his lower legs. It's dependent on him catching passes out of the backfield, making cuts, jumping, doing all these different things. I'm more in, and I love J.K. Dobbins. I'm more in on the Jordan Mason. I don't want to blow my load on it, but I'm more in on Jordan Mason than I am J.K. Dobbins at this point, just because of the offense. Do you understand my point? Is that with J.K. Dobbins, he could. Do they have Slater? They have Joe Alt. You could tell that they're gonna run the ball like crazy. And J.K. Dobbins just looked better than Gus Edwards. He just did. And I know that Jordan Mason looked good, but that's like, all right, so let's have Jordan Mason. Let's make sure that Jordan Mason, that we use him whenever we're getting CMC back up to speed. Whereas J.K. Dobbins could just take the job. Jordan Mason's not taking that job and running away unless.
I see both of your points. I think we're kind of splitting hairs here. I think both of these guys are going to be valuable into the season, and I think that they both. I think maybe you do. If you did a zero running back kind of draft, I think one of these guys could potentially put you over.
They're in the same. It's going to take McCaffrey really struggling for Mason to put you over. It's just going to take. All it's going to take is Dobbins succeeding for him.
He's not healthy, and they're not going to give Dobbins isn't going to get 25 carries. Dobbins isn't going to get RB1 output. They're going to.
When is Jordan Mason going to get 25 carries, Cody?
He just did.
Yes, because Christian McCaffrey was out.
And when's McCaffrey going to be healthy? That's the thing you have to think about.
He's day-to-day right now coming into week 2.
He's been day-to-day for a month and a half. He didn't practice all of August. Like, sooner or later, you got to, like, the guy dealt with how many injuries in Carolina? He's been on a hot streak of health the last 3 years. The calf banged up in December. It came back up in late July. Like, you just got to be – sometimes you got to take with what you saw. And what you saw was how they used Jordan Mason. He said, I was the RB1 all of August. Yes, I understand it's Christian McCaffrey. But the dude isn't 100%. He's not going to be 100% for a month.
Clearly, if you have Christian McCaffrey and you didn't handcuff him with Jordan Mason or pick Jordan Mason up off of waivers whenever we got the news or whatever, I mean, he should be your highest priority, and I would go higher.
Maybe that's the split.
I would be higher than what we've recommended. But the point is, in the waiver wire cheat sheet, it's not like the RosterWatch Ultimate Draft cheat sheet where you have to follow the exact order of things. Obviously, you know what your team needs. If your team needs wide receiver, like, you might take a wide receiver that's the only thing is within the tiers, that's the budget that we recommend, right? But the guys that are in the same tier, we sort of see as about the same. And the 3 guys in that particular tier, you can go to there to see our free agent acquisition budget bids for these guys. Jordan Mason, J.K. Dobbins. I added Jaleel McLaughlin into that just because I was so tilted by what I saw out of Jaleel McLaughlin this last week. I think that he is going to be a much bigger pain for Javonte Williams than I was anticipating. If we just look at what we saw in week 1, because this last week, so Jaleel McLaughlin only played 35% of snaps, but the dude had 5 targets and 15 touches. Javonte only 52% of snaps, 2 targets and 9 touches, and he didn't do much on them. I think things are going to get better for Javonte Williams, but I do think that Jaleel McLaughlin, especially in PPR, should be somebody that you're considering in this same sort of tier, because he has a role that, as we've seen, even whenever guys aren't healthy, he's getting, even when the guys around him are healthy, he's getting that usage. I think that his role will stay specified to the role that it is. Even if Javonte gets hurt, we saw Audric Estime fumble. I think we'd probably see Estime kind of take over Javonte's role, but I think that Jaleel would just take on more from there. But I think he's going to keep standalone value regardless. So those are my 3. As far as running backs, any guys that you guys think should be in that tier as well, because we could discuss Tank Bigsby. We could discuss Alexander Madison basically getting the work that I thought Dylan Laube was going to get this season.
Do we know more about Ken Walker and his injury?
No, we're still waiting for more with that.
I feel like Zach Charbonnet could be in that tier potentially.
Well, yeah, if we get more, but weren't they saying they were acting like in that game, or I guess, man, they always lie. The Seahawks. So I guess we'll have to see if they still lie as much when Pete Carroll's not there. But they're just so bad with injuries and stuff. I think certainly if we found out that Ken Walker was looking like he was going to be, inactive this week, I mean, yeah, of course you would get Charbonnet up in there, but that's something that we'll have to monitor and just, keep updating. We'll update the cheat sheet throughout the day. Most people just run waivers on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So after Wednesday, we won't be updating the waiver wire cheat sheet anymore. But if there is news that breaks today or at any point tomorrow, we'll certainly get Charbonnet up in that same tier. I don't, unless Cody, do you think he needs to be in there right now?
Well, I just, for the food of thought, I thought Walker had a abdominal injury before, so I went back and looked. August 12th, 2022, he actually had sports hernia surgery. Last November, he had an oblique injury, abdominal injury, missed 2 games. He went down in the Rams game. And then it's the way it's categorized right now on Draft Shark's injury guide is it's the same injury that he had November 19th. I don't know if it's the same injury or not, but it's probably similar.
Sounds like a lot of oblique and abdomen and stomach stuff.
So a lot of that same area, and he missed multiple games, missed 2 games last year, went down early in the Rams game, so technically 3 games. And then in 2022, like I said, had hernia surgery, which is right there in the abdominal area. So
maybe we could bump Sharbs up.
Maybe we should. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I can make that change. But it's going to be a no. It's going to be a no for me on Tank Bigsby unless you guys can talk me into it.
Tank Bigsby, I was kind of gobsmacked by his usage in week 1. I didn't see that coming at all. I mean, Ian's cat asking about Vidal and Biggs. I think with Vidal, either Edwards or JK is going to get hurt at some point during the season. So, it probably behooves you to have Vidal somewhere on your bench, but I don't think he's a must-have.
Who's that? I am. So that's our guy, Minion Hunter in the chat. What's going on, Minion? He's asking. Okay, so he's asking, and thanks to the over 500 people watching this live, man. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you being here. Are these sheets finished now, or are you going to finish them when done? No, this is the last quality control that we do. We've been texting back and forth all day, and we're just like, man, let's get on the show and talk it out. So the sheet will go up immediately after this, as soon as our web guy can get it up and we can make a couple of these changes. Jonathan Jones is asking, he got a trade of Mike Evans for Raheem Mostert. He got a trade offers for Mike Evans for Raheem Mostert, Christian Kirk, Devontae Smith, and Mark Andrews.
So you're gonna have to get rid of 3 other guys, huh?
Yeah, you have to get rid. I don't ever want to take a 4 for 1 kind of trade, man. You want to come out of it with the best player, and And this is a situation where you're not coming out of that with the best player. Although I think in totality,
yes.
I mean, it's not that bad, and you're buying Christian Kirk and Mark Andrews on a complete low.
Yeah.
I think it's early in the season, though. You're going to have to get rid of some good players to make that happen.
Yeah, man, you're going to have to drop too many good players. So I don't think I would do it, Jonathan. Let's see. Was there thoughts on Achane and London for CD and Chubb trade? Achane and London for CD and Chubb. Is there a side of that you guys would rather be on? I mean, I think
best player. I want
you're getting the best player on the CD side.
Yeah, I want Lamb.
But gosh, it's trading away London kind of low. I
don't care.
It is. Kirk Cousins
always looks like he's going to explode. But he did get a little banged up in that game. Again, early season, I'm going to side with best player.
Why don't you like Tank Bigsby at all? Like no adjustment at all in thought process?
No, I have an adjustment in thought process. At this point, I'm okay spending like 10% of your budget on it. Okay. I just don't want him to like. If you guys want to talk me into going higher, you can. I'm not.
I don't think I want to talk you into about going any higher. Like honestly, that workload made me a little worried about ETN because it was kind of a tight game, and obviously Miami came back. And what ETN got in week 1 was like exactly what I saw at camp, like minus the fumble. Like the fumble ruined that experience for me, which is what he's done like the last couple of years. It's just like nuked himself. Like he looks fantastic, and then it's like fumble or almost pass pro or nothing out of the backfield. And he just like did exactly what Tank Bigsby, top level Bigsby is what we saw on Sunday. And I just don't know how long that lasts.
I think ETN's going to be just fine, and I think Bigsby's more valuable and did get better this year than he was. He's certainly certainly not the worst running back in the whole league anymore.
Yes, that's a win.
That could possibly be Audric Estime. I'm not sure at this point.
Hey, now
I'm playing, man. It's only a 3 carry sample so far, right? All right. What about wide receivers? I think the only 2 that should be in our preferred tier that we can spend up a little bit for are Adonai Mitchell and Rashid Shaheed. As far as guys that are less than 55% owned across the major sites, as far as an average. But I mean, I think that arguments could be made to go sort of above, maybe dabbling in the 10% area for Alec Pierce, for Greg Dortch, and Xavier Legette, possibly Romeo Dobbs. Do you guys think that any of them could, Trashman, you were saying maybe make a 15% deal for them?
Yeah, I think that at least Dobbs, potentially Myers, and Mitchell or Pierce might make more sense and
Charbonnet. Like if we had that 15, Charbonnet goes in there too, because I don't think he's up there with those other 3. That's a good idea. I think that we should have Rashid Shaheed and Adonai Mitchell sort of on their own.
What Trashman? What do you think of like? I mean, you've been Alec Pierce, proponent, I guess.
I have not been a proponent. I mean, he was one of those Senior Bowl guys I did not like. He did not have an impressive Senior Bowl, but he got a lot of targets in camp. He's going to play in those 2 wide sets for the most part until
I just think that you can generally keep us in line with this is more so than anything. And like I put Adonai ahead of him because there's obvious air yards. If you watched the game, you saw the targets that went to Adonai that were not completed, but Pierce caught his 3 targets and he went berserk. So it's like, I kind of wanted to know your thoughts on like having Adonai ahead of Pierce like that. Like it's kind of I would assume it's probably abnormal. I haven't went scraping around to see what everybody else in the damn community's done, but I would assume Pierce is ahead of Adonai for most people. So,
I mean, well, Pierce kind of flashed early on last season, then kind of faded. I feel like Mitchell is a better talent. I feel like Mitchell's a better receiver. I feel like if one of those didn't connect for Pierce, then we're not talking about him this week.
And if both of those connected for Adonai, we're saying go out and spend 35% of your budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just that is what it is. One guy scores a 60-yard and a 55-yard touchdown. You're just like, oh, all right, well, holy cow. So, especially when it's a guy with Adonai's pedigree. So I'm with Cody, man. I haven't looked and seen what everybody else is doing, but we don't care whatever everybody else is doing. We're going to do what we do. I think I think the change I just made in the sheet, if y'all want to look at it, kind of works. Do y'all like that? I guess it's not good radio to do. Basically, yeah. I mean, we just made a separate sub tier for the Charbonnets and the Legettes and the Dortches and the Alec Pierces and stuff of the world, from the Masons, the Dobbinses, the Rashid Shaheed, and then.
Do we feel like Alan Lazard was an anomaly?
I'm not gonna. If you want to go get Alan Lazard, go get Alan Lazard, but please don't spend more than like $4. No one else is going to.
That's the thing. Like, I didn't know what to do with him or Jalen Naylor in Minnesota with Addison being hurt.
Guys, if you have questions in the chat, we're coming up here to the end of it. We'll go through tight ends and stuff. But if you guys have questions in the chat about players, you can put them in the chat. I've taken down some that people have already asked us about. But if you guys have questions about, can I drop this dude for any of these hot names on the waiver wire, put them in the chat, and I'll make sure to add them onto my list here that I already had prepared for Trashman for the final game of the show every week. Isaiah Likely. If you have tight end trouble, I think you probably should go get him. I think even with Mark Andrews bounces back. Did you guys? I'm not sure that physically Mark Andrews is capable of doing what Isaiah Likely is just physically capable of doing, just to housing these long plays. He showed me something that was pretty awe-inspiring with what he was able to do in that football game. If you're in tight end hell, and I think everybody is basically in tight end hell, even if you have Kincaid, man, you feel like you're in the pits of hell right now. I know that feeling very, very well. But if you're in a spot where you have a tight end who you knew wasn't that great to start, and you're just like, I'll take Musgrave, or I'll take Noah Fant, or something like this. Or if you lost your tight end, right? If you're an Njoku or Ferguson, this kind of stuff, I think that Likely is somebody that you could definitely take a look at, maybe in a little bit higher tier than just that kind of little dabble here or there. But I'd be interested to hear what you guys think, whether it's just a 1 week thing or whether it's like once the genie's out of the bottle, man, you can't. What are you going to do? You guys have thoughts?
What was your question?
What do we make of Likely moving forward? I mean,
maybe this is one of those rare offenses where you can support two tight ends on a weekly basis. I mean, like Patriots of old. I could see it potentially being like that. But we liked Likely at the Senior Bowl. We saw flashes of potential there. I think he's a better athlete than Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, I don't know. I wouldn't say he's at the twilight of his career, but you think he's probably seen his apex at this point. And because it is the tight end position, this is a guy that you're going to want to grab if you get a chance to, and if he keeps on producing like that. If he doesn't, I mean, it being a tight end, that doesn't really kill you either.
At quarterback, if you've been swindled, Baker Mayfield, obviously, I think he'll be the hottest quarterback pickup this week. Now, whenever I look at what is his, I don't know I just put up the matchup tool, so I'm just now getting into the matchup minds. Oh gosh, he's going to be at Detroit, so of course, man, like that's the pickup. It's a top 12 matchup for opposing quarterbacks, and again, a top 4 matchup for opposing wide receivers. So Evans, Godwin. And just, how the game scripts go in these types of games. That thing is already sitting at a 51.5 point total. So Mayfield will be the one to pick up if you're struggling at quarterback. But I noticed Cody's also in on Darnold. My worry about him is that he is at home this week, but they get San Francisco, which is not ideal. So if I'm kind of picking him up and hoping I can get like a waiver guy that could stick around for my team, Mayfield showed the upside this last week. We told you about the matchup last week. We had the stacks on the DFS cheat sheets for our pro members with Mayfield and Evans and Godwin for tournaments. That turned out to be an absolute smash. So I think it'll be another really good week for him. Any thoughts from you guys about quarterbacks or defenses? My only defensive thought was if you rolled with the Chargers last week, not terrible, right? It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible versus Las Vegas. I know a lot of people picked them up. This week they get Carolina, and Carolina's just miserable. So I think the Chargers would be a good defensive pickup.
Yep, I don't have a problem with any of that. The only thing I will say, rewinding back to tight end, is Isaiah Likely, I think, is a great addition, but I think in Dynasty we may be opening up a window. And I know, Trashman, you brought up like the output apex kind of for Mark Andrews, but he's 29. He's still only 29. He just turned 29, I believe. And I think we may be opening up a window of some sort of a buy window in Mark Andrews. Like, he was in that trade that was dropped in our chat earlier, and like, I don't know what that trade was. There's like 4 pieces for 1, which I don't agree with, but I think we maybe open up a little bit of a window. That kind of just came to my mind because he does become his dead cap drops $10 million. He's only got like a $5 million dead cap next year. He'll be a free agent the year after that, which will be his age 31 season, which we see right now guys of his archetype like Kelsey still playing. So just a random thought kind of at the tight end position. That quarterback, I think you hit on it perfectly with Baker and Darnold with their matchups this week being the difference. And then Chargers are pretty easy against the Carolina Panthers.
All right, Trash Man, here we go. Do you have any candidates, Cody, or do you want me to go with my list here?
You got it.
All right, Trash Man, can you drop them? Can you drop them? For the guys at the top of the sheet, okay? All right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Marshawn Lloyd.
Yes.
Khalil Herbert. He was not used, and that was.
He wasn't, but I mean, they used it. That was different than practice, but I'd say you could for a Mason or a Dobbin.
Of course you can.
Yeah.
Luke Musgrave.
Yeah. Tucker Kraft.
Darnell, dude, Tucker Kraft is the tight end 1.
Yeah.
Crazy. Tyler Algier.
Yeah.
Whew. Another Falcon. Somebody asked about Darnell Mooney.
Yeah. For Ray McLeod.
Oh, okay. Samaje Perine.
Yeah.
Marvin Mims.
Yeah. For Devon Vela.
Cole Kmet.
Yeah, why not?
Here's one. Somebody asked in the chat about Ty Chandler.
What?
No. Not yet. No.
Here come the tough ones. These are tough. Chuba Hubbard. For Dobbins.
For Dobbins? Yeah. Yeah. For Dobbins or Mason, potentially, yeah.
What about for McLaughlin in PPR? I'd never said
that's tough. I'd say yes, just because his offense sucks. That Panthers offense is pitiful.
And Jay Brooks will be back soon.
Yeah.
Blake Corum.
Yeah, that was interesting. I'd say yes.
I say no. I say not yet.
I mean, Ronnie Rivers is playing ahead of him. I mean, I feel
he's
like
not playing ahead of him. He's playing, and Corum's not playing. It's like, yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah.
Unless it's a dynasty, I think you can.
I think that if anything happens to Kyron, I just can't see Ronnie Rivers. Like, dude, you don't draft Corum to not. I mean, I wouldn't drop Corum just yet. This could be me just holding on, but I don't think you can do it. And finally, Trash Man. This guy's at the very top. He was disappointing. You're